who were at our meeting with Scottsdale PD are not here. They asked to be here, so if they show up late, they just get to call Adam and Sarah. Not me. We have a program set up for next month. Dan Simichuk is going to come talk to us about the art and the downtown and the Indian Bed Watch Project, because he's very much interested in that as a Southern Scottsdale resident for many years. Anyway, that's what we're going to do there. We're also planning another meeting. The meeting we did on homeless was very well received. Scottsdale PD was thrilled to death that we came because they learned a lot of stuff and we learned a lot of stuff. You know, we're going to continue to move forward on that, trying to find some options for earlier intervention for shelters and things like that. They're looking at a site in one of the county islands for a shelter that the county would oversee and Tempe could kick out, and it would be a shared proposition between us and Mesa and Tempe. But there were a lot of good things exchanged. It really was, it too was heartening, it really was. Other than that, if you guys have any suggestions for future meetings, let me know. And if you have, I don't want to talk about schools right now, so that's a hot button issue in this city. And it's everything from teachers to lack of programs to civil rights violations right on down the line, and bullying of teachers and bullying of kids. And it's all being worked on. And I'm very happy because Coronado and Columbia are coming back. So that's positive. But other than that, what did you want to say?
Oh, I think that's something, maybe it could be for this board, but some questions are coming up in our neighborhood about the crosscut
Yes.
project.
Yes.
And one thing that would really help, I know it's been on paper for quite some time. There is a big sign, the City of Scottsdale put up there, but how about putting a drawing on there?
Do you know anything about that? Okay. I will call Dan Worth. I'll call Dan Worth, who's head of capital improvement program, right?
Yeah.
And I'll call him tomorrow. Actually, I can walk down and stand in the driveway so he can't leave. And we'll get it set up so that we have somebody come talk to us about that.
It's on the website. It's on the city website.
It's on the web. There's 2 pages. Most of the people in our neighborhood don't know about it.
Okay.
They don't know what's going on, what it's going to look like.
Okay.
Uh,
I'm gonna say one thing. I said we were gonna talk about schools. Be very aware of neighborhood schools as we're moving forward. All of the schools in the southern part of Scottsdale will be torn down and rebuilt. But there's legislation trying to move through the state legislature that would allow school districts to sell property without going to the voters.
Sell what property?
School property.
School property, yeah.
Like Hohokam or Tomalia or Supai, it's not Supai anymore, Yavapai, Coronado, any of the schools, which would allow a developer to do high-rise, in my neighborhood, but it would allow them to develop the property as other than an institutional. So be aware of that. And as the school district is designing these schools, be aware of that and have a voice in it. Not every design have I seen that's great. And we can do better. I mean, we claim to be cutting edge. Well, we claim to be cutting edge, and I had Phil Oxford. Yeah, Phil Alsop met with some of us, and he was an architect, and he's with the Sustainability Institute at ASU. He really knows his stuff about the different ways you can build for education and make it flexible space. And we're not doing it. So, we've had some other issues that we're dealing with, but that's something you need to keep an eye on because it will impact your home. Okay, Adam, Sarah, you're on.
All right, thanks. So I'm Sarah Jabronic. I work in long range planning with Adam Jerome. Does everyone here know each other?
Yeah,
Okay, just making sure. All right.
we hang out together.
Okay. We can do introductions if you didn't, since everyone knows each other, and I think everyone pretty much grabbed name tags. I'll go ahead and get started. So I'm going to talk tonight about the proposed update to the downtown plan. So we'll talk a little bit about the existing downtown plan, some of the changes that we're proposing to the document, and then our next steps moving forward. So you can see here the city's downtown boundary. It's roughly Chaparral Road on the north, Earl Drive on the south, Miller Road to the east, and then 68th Street on the west. So the downtown plan, the original downtown plan, was adopted in 1984. Can everyone hear me also? A little louder, I'll try. You can grab a mic if it doesn't work. So the original downtown plan was adopted in 1984, and the current downtown plan was adopted by the City Council in 2009, and it serves as the guiding policy document for downtown Scottsdale, and the general plan serves as the guiding policy document for the City of Scottsdale. So the 2009 downtown plan has 6 chapters: land use, character and design, mobility, arts and culture, economic vitality, and public services and facilities. And you can see the future land use map here on the right. So what we've been doing over the past few months or year or so is looking at the downtown plan and assessing its relevance for viability, and looking at what's already been completed in the implementation program that's in it, and then also looking at the downtown plan in light of some recent plans, policies, and other initiatives. So looking at the implementation, in the back of the downtown plan, the last 2 pages, there's an implementation table showing all the different tasks that were desired to be completed in the community, and you can see here a list of a number of things that have already been completed. It ranges from ordinance amendments, the majority of which were adopted in 2012, and to the completion of the Museum of the West and also the Solari Bridge and Plaza. I mentioned earlier that there have been a number of other plans and policies that have been adopted since 2009. I won't go through the whole list here, but just wanted to call out a few. The Civic Center Master Plan, that's going through the adoption process right now. There was a Planning Commission meeting last night, and then I believe it's scheduled for City Council on March 20th. And then the Downtown Public Spaces Master Plan, or Connectivity Master Plan, we're going to be incorporating that map there that's on the right as part of the downtown plan. And then the recently completed tourism-led Downtown 2.0 study, and there are a number of aspects of that plan that we're looking to incorporate into the goals and policies of the downtown plan, and then also the implementation. Also wanted to mention that since 2009, there have been a number of changes in the downtown, both on the commercial side and on the residential side. And there's also been a significant amount of investment in the downtown, both on the private side and on the public side. So just going through the chapters, the first chapter is land use. You can see the future land use map there on the right. We're not proposing any changes to the boundaries of any of those land use designations there. And then I'm going to talk a little bit more about downtown districts. Also in the land use chapter, we want to add some language that's in support of the Downtown 2.0 plan. And then we also want to talk about a proposed Type 3. So moving on, in the downtown plan right now, there's this existing urban neighborhoods map that's shown on the left. You can see the downtown core area shown in red, and then colors that have neighborhoods radiating out of the bright spot of the color. And then what we're proposing in this plan is to have downtown districts. And I had some of these maps up front. What we're trying to do is really kind of take from Experience Scottsdale and our tourism department and incorporate a number of the boundaries that they're using in their products and their marketing. This is the downtown Scottsdale map that tourism is using right now, that they worked with Experience Scottsdale to develop. And so looking to have as closely as possible our boundaries kind of match those so that everyone's calling the same areas the same thing. Since that's a little hard to read from back there, I'll just go ahead and go through what these different districts are. So kind of up there on the top left at Fashion Square is that the turquoise area with Fashion Square. Just to the south of that is the Arizona Canal in orange. And then moving to the right, the Entertainment District in a purple color. Below that in brown and Stetson. South of Indian School, it's kind of light green here, but the Civic Center area. Heading to the west, the Medical District in pink. Just to the north of that, historic Old Town in red. And then moving to the west, the blue is the Arts District. And then our boundaries extend a little further than what Experience Scottsdale and Tourism have on their maps. So we extended the districts a little bit, and we added a new one in that darker green there that we're calling the Garden District. It's south of that Goldwater curve that includes a lot of those mid-century apartments and condos. And then going north of Indian School, the yellow area is Fifth Avenue. So I just wanted to take a break for a minute and get any feedback that you have. Adam's here to write things down. Or any questions that you have on what we're proposing.
The Garden District, does it include the Paiute Center?
Does not go, the downtown boundary doesn't extend that far to the west.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, so those different areas will there be, I guess, restrictions imposed on the usage of those lands to comply with either arts or whatever it's designated as?
So a lot of the districts would be more for marketing or for the branding, kind of with tourism, with Experience Scottsdale. I believe the trolley maps in the future are going to use those same districts. The restrictions on land use would be with this previous land use map. So there are uses that are associated with this. And then I'll talk in a minute about types and how land use and types are connected and what we're proposing to do with that in the update.
Where is the bar district, or what are you calling that?
I'm going to guess, but I'm guessing it's the entertainment district. And so it's this purple area right here. So this is where Sprouts and TJ Maxx is.
Do we have a definition in this plan for an entertainment district?
Yes.
Because we didn't in the past.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
And so generally, what we have here is kind of this is what Experience Scottsdale and Tourism have been using, and they have these brief definitions here. We kind of modified them a little bit and use those as a base for our definitions.
Okay.
That's kind of complicated, isn't it, compared to what it was? You've got more districts.
There are more districts.
What?
Why did you pull the Garden District into the downtown district, downtown? What was the thinking behind that? Can you share that?
Sure. So the downtown boundary is established right now. We're not proposing to change that existing boundary. It had this first slide. So this is the existing downtown boundary. And so we're not really changing that. So that area is within the downtown right now. It's just that the mapping that tourism and Experience Scottsdale are using, they didn't include that area. My guess is that it just doesn't have as much tourist kind of interest, but it seems kind of strange to have this map and not have it have a name. So we wanted to give everywhere within the downtown boundary a name.
So
It's obvious that this was produced before our rebranding, which now everything is Old Town.
Yes.
So, there's cross-referencing downtown, Old Town, and it's all one thing, so this is already outdated.
So this is if Karen or someone from tourism was here, she could talk about it a little bit more. This is, I believe an interim marketing piece that they're using for this season, and then they're going to, I think, I'm kind of crossing into dangerous territory here. I think that they're going to kind of fully launch the brand after this season and over the next year, and so there'll be different marketing material at that point. But that I think that Experience Scottsdale has been using kind of these general boundaries for quite some time, and I know that they came to one of our meetings and were saying that they really try to listen to the businesses and adjust their boundaries, or kind of listen to what people are saying. People call that area when they're making their maps.
I think maybe you're getting a little misinformation, but that's okay.
Okay.
I have a question. So being as that we're going through this rebranding, when people look at this, are we going to no longer have a downtown? Is it all going to be called Old Town, or is it going to be this part of downtown's Old Town, or this is sort of Old Town, not as old as the rest of the town, or, you know? Yeah.
I understand exactly what you're asking. I think we've been talking about that a little bit internally, and again, I feel like I'm kind of crossing into area where I have some of the information, but not all of the information. I know that, you know, the branding is Old Town. We're talking about how many places we're going to be changing all of our downtown references. But then just Old Town, the red area will be known as Historic Old Town. That's the way that's going to be kind of marketed and branded. That's what's showing up on those maps there.
So that whole area is going to be Old Town?
So for tourism recently did a brand reveal saying that they wanted to call the downtown Old Town Scottsdale. And I can pull up their marketing video after I'm done my presentation, and maybe we can just watch that, and that might answer some questions about, or kind of run through their presentation just to kind of give you a little bit of information on why they went that route. But I don't know, that's not my department, so I only know so much.
So the Old Town is now called the Historic Old Town.
Yes.
And then the rest of everything is Old Town. And so I'm just wondering what sort of unifying symbolic references you're going to start putting out there to put it all together to show that it is. Hi, Erin.
That will be part of, I think, tourism's brand as they kind of move through their rebranding process. I think they'll have more and more of that. I know you've been to some of the other meetings where we have the Old Town coasters, and so that's their logo. And I think there'll be more marketing materials like that and more of that coming out in the next few months.
Just to catch on one other thing, though,
Sure.
I think in response to Ms. Smith's comments relating to the differences between the maps, it's important to point out that the existing map on the left was not parcel-based, and the one on the right is. So you'll see on the left, basically, there's a radiance of ambiguity between one district and another. This is defined with specific streets and parcels in mind.
Is that a prelude to different height renderings that you departmentalize like that? Just sort of wondering.
We'll get into the types map next. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. So, and if anyone has any questions, feel free to let me know. All right, so moving on to the types map. So we have the existing development types map that's in the downtown plan. And if you look on this map, there's the green area is the downtown core. And if you're in Old Town, you can see where Old Town is from the other maps. If you're in Old Town, there is a height limit of 40 feet. And then if you're outside of Old Town, and you're in that green area, there's a height limit of 48 feet. And then those hatched areas are areas that, with the adoption of the 2009 plan, changed from type 1, which is the lower height area, to type 2. They'd be considered blue like the rest of this map. And so right now, there are different heights in these blue areas, and to figure out the height, you need to go back to your land use map, and then different land uses have different heights. And so what we're wanting to do with this change is to have the height associated with the type and not a combination of the type and the land use. So what we're proposing is for that, that downtown core area, that green area. We're not proposing changes to that, we're proposing that stay the same. So if you're within Old Town, there is a height limit of 40 feet. And then if you're in the rest of the core area, there's a height limit of 48 feet. And then in the light blue areas that are shown on the map, right now, those are kind of different land uses right now with type 2. So right now, so what they would be is they would be type 2. And type 2 under the downtown ordinance has a height limit of 66 feet. And then if you go to the plan block development section of the zoning ordinance, it has a height limit of 90 feet. And then when you look at these purple areas up here, this is the downtown regional, and this is downtown medical. And so those under the downtown ordinance have a maximum height of 84 feet. And then depending on the size of your parcel, you can have, with the PVD chapter, you can have bonuses that increase your height between 90 and 150 feet. And so what the proposal is on this types map is to have these general bubble areas become the same kind of, allow the same kind of height as these purple areas. So depending on the size of your parcel, you could have additional height. So if you have a parcel that's 100,000 square feet or less, which is about 2.5 acres, you would have a maximum height of 90 feet. If you're between 100,000 square feet and 200,000 square feet, there'd be a maximum height of 120 feet. And then if you have 200,000 square feet or more, there would be, which is about 5.5 acres, there'd be that maximum height of 150 feet.
I've been sort of out of the loop for a while.
Sure.
But my understanding was when they built the Twin Towers at Camelback, that there were not going to be any 100 feet north or south of the canal.
Sure. So I think that's shown on what they're sure that that's been something that I've heard from other people too. So I did want to take a pause and kind of get feedback from people on that proposal and get any questions about anything or any other thoughts.
How many new sites are going in? There's at least 3 that are 150 in that northern portion. At least 3 new big developments going in that are 150.
So there aren't any developments that have been submitted yet for anything. And
we get council to comment about that, about all the projects that have been approved. I mean, it seems like there are so many projects that have been at that height that I don't understand how the city can be saying that there's limitations when we already know on the drawing board there's so many. The Loma just was approved for 150. So what's going on is contrary to what's really happening at the moment, right? I mean, Sally, you can comment better than I can.
I think the point you're bringing up is that if you read the entire Loma sale contract, it ties to close of escrow to have the option for 150 feet tall, which is the hotel that they're proposing. So as we look at these yellow blobs, they seem appropriately in the right place for type 3, which allows 150. This point, everything.
So we know there's a lot of 150 on the drawing board. So.
Well, and all you need is bonuses like Galleria office, north of the Galleria is getting 96 feet. So, you know, I met with some neighborhood today, and they said, why do we even have zoning? Why do we even fool around with zoning? We waste city council time. Why don't we just say, bring your money and build it? So
yeah,
I said, well,
and kind of like why waste service time and all this. Already.
But I believe that's accurate.
There's 2 things that are happening in downtown. There's 2 locations where they can ask for that bonus height to 150 feet. And you're seeing that in purple on the map. So there are some that have gone through a public process and have been approved at that height. There's the purchase sale agreement for Loma, which is contingent on council deciding whether or not to increase any height levels around the Loma area. So to do that, two things would have to happen. One, an amendment to this plan, because it doesn't show that now as being one of those purple areas, for example. And two, it doesn't have the zoning to be able to ask for that. So the council has two decisions to make: amend this plan and then adjust through a text amendment to our zoning ordinance. So those things have not occurred yet. So it's not like the rubber stamp done deal. Council has a lot to think about with regard to what that height would be in association with that project.
But all the chips are in place.
Right.
All the chips are in place.
In terms of consideration, that purchase sale agreement is nullified and council decides not to.
The 27 million, like you're gonna turn it down, right?
Just building on that, there is a zoning text amendment that has been initiated, and we are having some community group meetings this month, and then next month we'll have open houses on the 20th and the 21st here, and we'll have the draft plan and most likely the draft zoning ordinance there for you to look at that. And so we hope to have those run concurrently through the process.
I have a question. I noticed previously, it looked like you had a heat map where you had the blobs of, okay, this was this, this, and this. So then we're going to, okay, we're having these nice defined shapes, and then you just went back to blobs.
So right now we have blobs. We're anticipating that when it's adopted through kind of our outreach and our process, we'll have defined lines and not blobs.
Okay, because as it is now,
There are blobs.
yeah, they're blobs, and it's like you have these little gaps. So, I mean, is there an eventual plan to make it, okay, this is going to fit like a jigsaw puzzle, and it's going to be hard to find lines as much as we define things? Or could that blob can just grow and it could be like, hey, the middle is just going to be the little green piece and there's no light blue, it's all
There will
purple?
be defined lines and boundaries there.
That typology that's on there is a new proposed typology, so it's conceptual at this point. Part of why it's shown in that way is to hear feedback from folks like you and others. And so as we bring this through that public open house process, hopefully through March 20th and 21st, we'll have those areas more defined than what's shown here today.
And then council can also, all the way up until council's decision on if they choose to amend it, they can adjust those boundaries as well. So it could change all the way up until the night of council.
Who did that?
Planning staff.
Who?
Planning
The planning staff? We don't have names attached.
It was long range planning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was long range.
They're always.
Yeah.
So I see.
You did it, you did it.
Well, I don't know, Sarah, and I know a lot of the language you talk about some of the criteria we're considering for why those areas.
Sure, we were looking at areas that were kind of adjacent to existing type 3 areas, so kind of having it on the other side of the canal, looking to have, especially at the intersection of Camelback and Scottsdale, having the corners have a similar type of development, looking at potentially which areas were close to other areas that already have this kind of development, especially down south by Honor Health. And then, we didn't want to necessarily have them be close to those type 1 areas where less intensive development was allowed, and that's partially where you see some of those bubbles that we're still working out where we want that line to be located. So those are some of the things that we were looking at. Yes.
How many acres is the area enclosed with your red dotted line? Do you know?
It's 128, Aaron. Do you remember it's 1,000? 1,200 acres? How many acres is the downtown? 1,200?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but we can get that to you.
Yeah, because I'd be curious proportion-wise, what the purple right now, you're saying, it's showing purple from back here. You're saying that is really, can go as high as 150 feet. So I'd like to know what of the entire acreage that's defined as downtown.
Sure.
What percent is currently zoned for 150, and then, or has the possibility for 150, and then what generally would the blocks be?
Okay.
As a separate number, I can add the two together, but I'd be interested in seeing
Okay.
Put those graphics together for the open house in March.
Well, you,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, we can definitely put that together. It looks like Adam is getting it down, so I will definitely remember and put that together. Are there other questions right now?
Could you tell me on Main Street, green area there, what height did you say was the max there?
So if you're in the Old Town area, which is going
I'm
to
talking to the west of Scottsdale
be,
Road.
the west of Scottsdale Road would be 48 feet.
48 feet. How many stories is that?
You can say approximately, let's say 15 feet for the first floor and then 10 feet for floors above that, so probably 3 feet. 3 stories, I'm sorry. All right, so moving on to go through and highlight some of the changes in the rest of the plan. So for character and design, what we're looking to do there is really just emphasize things that are already there, emphasize pedestrian comfort, emphasize having public realm spaces, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Emphasize sustainability, both on the part of the city and with private developers, and then emphasize infrastructure in terms of aesthetics and how that works into the downtown. So we are proposing to incorporate the public spaces master plan into the document. I'll just highlight a couple things on it. You can see on the right there, the Civic Center area outlined in a light blue. And then there's a proposed new public space in the entertainment area. You can see that green area shown, that's a city parking lot. As you're heading west across Scottsdale Road, along the canal, additional public space area there, connecting the canal with the Fifth Avenue area. And if you head down Marshall Way, you can see the potential for some public space around First Avenue, and then also additional public space near the Museum of the West, just south of it, and then it shows an addition to the Museum of the West there as well.
That's a terrible map. It's fuzzy and your colors are awful.
other than that? Other than that, it's very fast.
No, it's not a great map.
Any comments on the spaces or the locations or anything like that?
You mentioned that in the entertainment district, you said a public space is a parking space, or did you mean a public space?
A public space right now, it's that area that's shown right there and is the existing city parking lot. Just to kind of give you an idea of where it's located.
Okay, because otherwise you're trying to say that if someone puts a parking lot, it's a public space, that's a,
No,
that's gonna be a really
no,
weird definition.
No.
I have a question. I have a doctor who is on 4500 Civic Center up across from one of the new industry complex, okay? His car has been hit 3 times by people speeding up and down the alleys rather than speeding up and down the street. But it's becoming an issue. And though I see him a lot, he's not making all his money off of me. Is there anything that we could do or include in planning that would make it less appetizing to speed in the alley?
Sure, we can kind of coordinate. Can you go ahead and write the issue down, and then we can possibly coordinate with public safety or look at traffic calming measures for alleys or something like that. But
You definitely have to do with fire, because when I was on the Neighborhood Enhancement Commission, several times we were asked to help with alleys, and you have to make sure it's accessible for fire.
Sure. Okay. So for the mobility chapter, I'm looking at implementing pedestrian wayfinding. I think this is something tourism is looking to do soon. There's existing vehicular wayfinding, but these would be signs specifically designed for pedestrians or other kind of information for them. Adding some additional goals and policies related to bicycling. The draft general plan 2035 has bicycling goals and policies that have been a reaction. So what we are proposing to adapt and use those and propose those for inclusion in the downtown plan. And so there would be some additional language relating to bicycling, and then also continuing to look at parking management throughout the downtown.
Are we looking at bus rapid transit coming on? Do you know?
There are some policies that refer to higher capacity transit. Bus rapid transit, or the mode, isn't specifically named.
Okay. I'm amazed I can remember all that stuff.
So Nancy Transportation also has in their master plan an implementation item to implement a rapid transit bus that would go from the air park and ride to downtown, specifically in that nonstop, so that it doesn't.
Right.
And I don't remember what year that is, but that would potentially show up here because it's specific to downtown, at least in the implementation.
It should be soon, because I was on that committee too.
Yeah, I just sat in one of Paul's presentations for Scottsdale Leadership Day, and I know Paul said he was hoping it would happen. I think it was this fall, but it's put off for some reason.
Okay.
I know it's on the books.
Time-wise, that makes sense.
You mentioned bicycling, and ironically, your picture shows those rental bikes hogging up the sidewalk. So, does your plan mean, hey, the city's gonna spend money so people put bikes in a certain place, or we're gonna redesign to flow so people can actually get around? Because, you know, if you say, hey, look, we have a bicycling plan, and people are over there walking in the street, that's not really accomplishing much.
Sure. So we're looking to include basically general bicycling goals and policies. I know that there's been lots of discussion about all the green and yellow bikes, and I know that transportation has been working on that. And I think that we may include something about bike share generally, but I think we're not looking to kind of get into the details of that in this. Hopefully that gets worked out kind of through a transportation process, and I can get you some contact information for them. I know that I think there was a discussion at council last night about bike share, and I know that there's been bike share discussions at the Transportation Commission too. So, oh, sure. Sorry about that. Can you?
Get a microphone?
There's a microphone there.
So just generally, we're not looking to talk too much about bike share in the downtown plan. It may come up in a goal or policy, but hopefully some of the ongoing things with bike share. I know City Council has been talking about those in the Transportation Commission and transportation staff. And hopefully, I'm not sure the downtown plan, kind of think of it as sort of a kind of a long range document. We want to have too much in there about that.
Well, they're parked now on the sidewalk where people in wheelchairs can't get through, and they can't get up to move them, and then they're parked on people's grass or gravel in their yards, and the people that live in those houses didn't ride the bikes.
I know that there are some issues. I wish that I could give you some great advice for it, but I'm not probably the best person to be speaking on bike share. But it's not. They're not supposed to be parked on sidewalks, blocking people's pathways and blocking wheelchair access, and they're not supposed to be in private property and all of those things. But I can definitely give you contact information if you want to talk to transportation.
Website has the places to go.
Right.
Yeah, but if you don't use the computer for that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, well, we're yelling here, so write it down.
And if you want, we can look up a phone number for you too, so you can give it to neighbors or anyone that wants to know.
You're looking at pedestrian wayfinding, and I know one of the things over the 8.5 years, we talked about things to encourage pedestrians, and hopefully that would include opportunities for shade as well as seating, so that they can take advantage of the areas that they're in. I know when we were talking about bus rapid transit with Valley Metro and meeting at Skysong, that same thing was brought up. particularly as the bus rapid transit route cuts through downtown, Old Town, whatever. And I hope we're looking at that.
Sure, so as far as kind of shading and pedestrian comfort, we have a lot of that in the character and design chapter. We're kind of getting at pedestrian comfort as far as trees, shading, all of those things there. And then kind of more technical or infrastructure, more kind of improvements regarding, where the sidewalks are located or things like that in the mobility chapter.
Great.
So for arts and culture, a lot of the changes that we are proposing to make in it are to implement Downtown 2.0, have more of an emphasis on events and festivals, have a little bit of additional language in the goals and policies about these, and then add a number of things to the implementation tasks that we have for the plan. And then something similarly with temporary art or pocket art parks or an art trail that goes through the downtown. Those are all things that came from the Downtown 2.0 plan that we're looking to implement through the downtown plan. And for economic vitality, having additional language, yes.
I have a question I realized I should have asked a couple of slides ago. Is the substation at the canal in Camelback strong enough to handle all the needs of all the construction going on in the downtown area? I'm assuming it is not. And therefore, there will need to be another substation on the west side of Scottsdale Road. Has any thought been given to that? What about that kind of demand for residential, which is going higher, and the commercial and retail needs of and any kind of development that's going in the downtown area? Because just technology, we all use a lot more electricity than we did 10 years ago. I mean, our systems, our computers are. So, is there any thought of where that's going to be placed?
I know that the substation, there are plans to relocate it. I know that at least,
I'm sorry, you said there
are not plans. There are not plans to relocate it. And then I know as of at least a couple of years ago, there weren't plans to add on or to have additional capacity within the downtown area.
But it's not been decided as to where or.
In 2002, when they first started talking about building on the waterfront, where actually Yari is going to be building, Dick Hayslip was with SRP.
Yeah.
And he said they would have to look at increasing capacities in 10 years. That would have been 2012.
Years ago.
Yeah, so we're there. One of the senior community people, DeRoss, I believe is her name, met with me at Arcadia Farms, and we talked about that and how they would place the new substations and try to go underground with the substation. But one of the problems they have is access to the equipment for their people at SRP having to get to things quickly. So they need to be talking with the city, because we're hitting that point now with all of the infill, that residential infill that we've got going up. We're looking at having to increase the capacity, because at that time we didn't have as many projects on the board as we've got now, and we didn't have completion dates for a lot of this. So that's something that has to be considered.
There was no decision made then, Nancy. I know that, because they wanted to put it by the church here, and that was killed.
Yep.
And so I just wondered if there was a general.
They were gonna, when the original plan for the waterfront hotel came out, they were gonna move the substation that's at Camelback and Scottsdale Road to Indian School and 68th Street.
68.
And
Makes that fit.
yeah, and that all kind of fell through. There were two big developments that were supposed to go into that area, multifamily developments and a hotel. And both of those went under. And there's other development on that site now at 68th and Indian School. So they're gonna have to look pronto if they're gonna find a spot that's gonna be compatible with anything else that's going in.
You said SRP needs to start talking to the city. I would think the city needs to start talking to SRP.
Both. When we brought it to them in 2002, nobody had talked to anybody. And we saw what was going in and the fact that, oh yeah, we want to move that substation to 68th Street and Indian School. Well, that'll be nice, but wait, how do you accommodate all of this? And what are you going to have? And I think it was Don Seidner who developed the design for the new substation. So there is a design and there has been discussion, but it's not been recent.
I have the comment captured, and so we'll make sure it's part of the discussion.
So moving on to economic vitality, looking at innovative solutions, whether it's for parking management or other things that are needed in the downtown, looking at different target growth industries like information, communications, and technology, also looking at quality of life, particularly quality of life that employers are looking for their employees, kind of things that will bring people to the community, and looking at the city's responsiveness to changes in trends, whether it's retail or whether it's office or commercial businesses. And I talked a little bit about,
And you're talking about innovative solutions, and you mentioned parking. Then a few slides back, you didn't include any additional parking, so are you just talking about something you can't implement, or, because remember the blobs? Those blobs turn purple. You have an increase in density, so you're gonna have more people. But your plan doesn't say, hey, we're gonna put more parking, so how are you going to accommodate that? Are we just gonna talk about addressing parking and never actually get to it? Or is that part of, okay, if we're gonna say this is the boundary, that boundary requires this much space set aside for parking for the increase in density? Is that something you guys handle or what?
Sure. Well, developments that are proposed must provide parking, and the city has parking requirements for developments. So many spaces per bedroom or so many spaces per square feet of office. And so they're required to meet those parking requirements as they come in. And then, we realize that depending on where you are in downtown, we've had a parking study that shows, there's parking in downtown, it just might not be right where people want it at the right time. And so a lot of what this one is focusing on is parking management and making it so people know where the parking is and how to find it, all of those things. And then, back to mobility, parking management, using techniques or innovations like that to looking at parking management, and then also considering other ways of managing parking, whether it's just different strategies that might reduce people's usage of cars, whether it's helping people figure out places to park so they might not be taking parking away from customers in front of stores. If they're going to be, sitting in an office all day, all of those different kinds of things are things that we want to be looking at for managing parking. So moving on to implementation, I've talked a little bit about this before. Right now there's an implementation matrix at the end of the downtown plan, and we're looking to update that, add a lot of the projects that I've been talking about today in there, and then also add a little bit more information about the projects themselves, as well as when we expect them to be completed. This is kind of a visionary document, it's a policy document, so for us, short term is 0 to 5 years, then a 5 to 10 year period, and then probably 10 or more years. And there are also a number of things that will always be ongoing. We'll probably always have improvements for pedestrians or ADA accessibility or things like that, so we'll incorporate those as well. And so just to summarize things, as far as things that we're changing, we're looking to align the plan with other policies and documents. We're looking to refine some of our maps and graphics, refine some of the goal policy language as more active language, and then also update the implementation program. As far as things that we're not changing, we're not proposing to change the type 1 requirements, we're not proposing to change the downtown core boundary. We are proposing to include limited additional areas that allow height, but we're not proposing to change the maximum height within the downtown. So we're on a relatively tight timeline for this project. The City Council initiated it in January. We're holding some public outreach meetings with different community groups this month. We have open houses scheduled for the 20th and the 21st of next month. And then we're tentatively scheduled for Planning Commission and City Council hearings in April and May. And as we talked about earlier, the code amendment would be running through the process concurrently, so that we would have information on that at the open houses in March, and then it would run through the hearing process similarly as well. So are there questions beyond the additional questions we had?
All right, I got a question.
Yes.
2012, I was doing research, and there was a company that was a consultant for entertainment districts, hospitality areas, and they wouldn't take on Scottsdale because we didn't have a defined entertainment district. And they refused to even come here. We had sent people from economic development, people from the police department. They went to, why we did those people instead of you people, I don't know, but they went to Florida, they met, they were invited, and they said no. So, what is it, if you know, and I'll send you what I still have on my computer, what is it that they wanted to see to define an entertainment district? Now, I've read a lot of their stuff, and no, we don't look like any of the typical entertainment districts that they have worked with. We don't look like San Francisco. We don't look like Vegas. No, we don't look like Vegas. We don't look, those are just two, but we also don't look like the smaller towns where you have, instead of a bar district, you've got little restaurants and you've got art galleries and pubs, okay? We've got something more involved. I just want to make sure that as we're talking about an entertainment district, that this time we capture all that that means to us.
Okay.
Or the values, the vision and the values that the community would like to see implemented.
Okay. I don't know about the 2012 meetings or what was involved there, so I'm not sure how much I can.
That's okay, you probably can't, but it's been bugging me for that many years. I will send you, and I'll send you, did they leave?
Yes.
I'll send it to Councilman Smith too, and we can put it up, we can put a link on our site so people know what I'm talking about. I think it's important to understand. I mean, I've heard all kind of things proposed to connect an entertainment district with the AME at ASU, which would be really cool. I like that myself, but to connect it with the theater and that so that you have an education factor. Well, right now that would be a little hard to do. But there are things like that that could really make an entertainment district better economically.
Okay.
Are you thinking about more like including a theater district with it as opposed to just a liquid district?
That's part of it.
We talked about a theater district around Sagebrush. We've talked about it down at McDowell on 64th where the car dealerships were.
That's part of it. That was part of it. There's an element like that. I'll send you what I've got because, and I've got pages and pages and pages. I was surprised that they didn't want to talk to us about what we've got. And then on the other hand, we were in the early stages of an entertainment district and we didn't have that definition. And thank you so much for a definition. But yeah, I'll send it to everybody.
Because the entertainment district is so fragmented and not defined, It interferes with a lot of existing neighborhoods and businesses. Noise is one thing, is a big thing. And so I was told that don't worry, you'd rather have this than a dead town. And after all these people move in with these condos, it's going to get on their nerves. And then the entertainment district will be replaced by all of these walkable, livable people that will be living in our downtown. That this is a transition.
Not in my lifetime.
Well, that's a political speech, we've all heard, yes, Patty. Is that true?
Well, you know, Sean Yari has been working with the new city manager on a concept for that area because he owns most of it now. And do you remember years ago when Sean had the Indian Plaza plan and we all saw it looked fabulous and all the buildings down there? Aaron, is Aaron still here? Remember that, Aaron, when you had the Indian Plaza? It really looked exciting. Well, apparently he now is coming back with another concept or plan, but I doubt that it's going to be like a theater district.
No, probably not.
Well, when I think of the entertainment district, I think of the bars and the all-night stuff that goes on. And when I think of a theater district, I think of around the center of the arts.
Maybe the name has to be pub and libations or entertainment, but we've always called it entertainment.
When we talked about the different districts in the downtown, we talked about fitting the puzzle pieces together, the fringes. Aaron, do you remember talking about the fringes?
The fringes of the district?
Yeah.
Are you wanting to talk about specifically like transition areas?
Yes, thank you. And how you step back buildings so that you're not slamming a tall building up next to a one-story little house.
Right.
With buffer zones in the
Yeah.
So what's in the existing downtown ordinance regarding step backs and setbacks and transitions, we're not proposing changes to any of that. If that kind
Okay,
of helps to
that's,
answer your question.
yeah,
So that includes transitions at the downtown boundary, right, to the neighborhoods around it.
right,
But also to that type 1 district too, so they have to step down toward that as well.
okay.
And so whatever you're required to
I should
do
remember.
between type 1 and type 2, you'd be required to do the same thing for the type 3.
All right,
If they do end up abutting each other. And there's one area where they do already by Honor Health.
okay. Now, that's the other thing. At one time, Honor Health was to have a residential element on that plan at Osborne. And this is back, in fact, they came to a community council meeting and presented. John Berry and Tom, what's his name? I'll soon we forget. Sadbury. And there was going to be on the western side of that site, in the area where those doctor's offices are, there was to be a residential element. Now, I'm not one way or the other about it. I mean, but I was curious if there's been any discussion on that.
I know they have an adopted master plan for their site. I forget what the date was on it, but it was a little while
They're
ago.
about 10 years into their 25-year plan.
Yep.
And what I remember from that was that it, or at least I think maybe just our description of what we expect to be in that area, was that it might include kind of senior living or assisted living, but I don't remember kind of a
It
more
was supposed
broader
to-
residential component. But I could be on there and I just didn't see it.
No, there were a lot of things on there. There was an orthopedic specialty unit
Okay.
and a residential unit, and yeah, there could very well have been.
So this plan's not changing any of those special campus zoning in case that project went through. But as Aaron mentioned, they're about 10 years into their 25-year plan.
Yeah.
So, any
Anything.
change to that site plan or what they had anticipated for
Right,
Site locations would have to go back for amendment.
thank you, that's what I was
Yes.
trying to get to. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I live at 64th Street and north of Osborne. And there's a lot of single-family housing work going on in there, flipping houses and creating small multi-family condominium projects. What again was the height for that area?
So, just to clarify a couple of things. So we don't go all the way up to 68 here, or 64. We go up to 68 here.
Okay.
So 64 will be here. So as long as you're outside of this, you're not in the downtown. So it would be based on your general plan land use designation.
Okay.
And then your zoning. And most likely, Adam stop me, most likely any of those would require, or a number, some of the, I'm thinking about it, they may or may not require rezoning, but depending on the number of units, they would require rezoning. And I think most of that area is probably suburban for their land use designation. And so that would allow a density of 1 to 8 dwelling units per acre without a general plan amendment.
That's what is there in a lot of cases now, and what is replacing is the same. I was just curious. Good, I'm not in that area.
So if you have a 7,000 square foot lot, you have probably 4 or so dwelling units per acre.
We're one of
And they'll be
6
right
condos.
on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
You know, you're right, but ours isn't. We have a lovely setback with a water retention area and nice trees and shade. And I need to bring my bench back. But yeah, you're right. The flush with the sidewalk is on the 64th Street side. And even the area where you have the garbage bins stored is flush to the sidewalk. You can't see traffic coming.
Remember that was widened,
Yep.
and it widened right up next to the wall of that gray complex north of you.
Oh, it's
Can't imagine the vibrations.
it's lovely. Motorcycle time is coming up. But no, safety issues, and I'll fill these out.
Sure. So for new developments, if they're on a corner, they'd be required to have a clear vision area, so you could see traffic coming. Then depending on your zoning district, you would have a required setback too.
Are they required to have those mirror things? Is that considered a safety?
I don't know when those come in.
No, I know what you're talking about, the bubble domes,
I don't know when they come in though.
but it's really dependent on the situation. So I mean, if you feel like there's a safety issue, certainly we can have transportation look at your specifics, but.
I work with the police on that spot because we've had some crazy accidents there.
Yes.
And because Paiutes across the street in the school and all of that. And we've been hemming and hawing. What do we do? Well, we had another accident there on Tuesday and flipped a car. And you have to be going pretty fast to flip. So, yeah. Okay.
And then you had a question about
Could you please repeat the possibility of the height in the light blue area?
So right now, the light blue area, on the right, the areas that would be staying light blue, under the downtown section of the zoning ordinance, there's a maximum height of 66 feet. And then if you go to the planned block development section of the ordinance, there's, you can have additional bonuses, and then that would allow a maximum of 90 feet.
And how high is, was it North Taylor that has those 3 stories? Right around 4th Street and Miller, west side of 4th Trail?
Oh, trail.
Taylor Morrison.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, Taylor Morrison's too.
Don't think I have those on here.
And then also on the corner of, northwest corner of Miller and Osborne, there's another three-story condo going up.
Don't have.
We don't have those, we can get those to you by
We can get
email,
those to you, yeah.
Okay,
on both those projects.
okay. But there's a possibility, so 90 is gonna be a definite limit for height.
And that's not changed, for that particular area, that's not changing, that's what it is today too.
Okay.
But then there are, we've kind of touched on this a little bit, there are setbacks and stepbacks, and it also depends on your parcel size as well. So there's some different factors that affect it.
Didn't the hospital in their master plan, Adam, get 120 feet?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because they took the Osborne campus and the Shea campus
Yeah, they did it.
around the same time.
Right, they did a transfer.
They have 95 to 150.
Let's go ahead.
Okay, can we take these home and bring them back? Or-
Me too.
You can email me.
Okay, I'm good, as you know. We'll put this up on the site. Can we put the questionnaire up on our site too? For those people who,
Yes, you can do that. You can, hold on, let me,
you have a link.
so what I have here is if you go to look at downtown plan update, we don't have too much on there right now, but as kind of we continue through these meetings, we'll post more on there. And then, let me get a little bit bigger. But you can email me any comments that you have or any questions that you have about anything, and we'll kind of get answers to you and compile that information too.
Okay.
And if you've given us your email, we'll make sure to email you ahead of the March open house and remind you of that as well.
And then I have some business cards at the table up front too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
He's taped, so you know, and we'll put that up there too.
That's great.
Okay. Anybody else have anything?
When's your next presentation?
Alrighty.
We're doing.
And the